Hello and welcome to Aunty Lou's Hour. In this episode, I'll be talking to the lovely Johanna about her experience living with HIV, self-discovery and acceptance. If you like this podcast, please do comment, subscribe and like. Thanks for watching. Oh my God, Johanna, all the way from Mexico. It looks so beautiful behind you.
Thank
Hello, how are
you.
you?
I am amazing. I can't even begin to express how amazing I am. Being in Playa del Carmen, Mexico is such a
Yeah,
strong energy in this area, like the beach and the people and the culture.
yeah.
I'm just like on cloud nine right now.
Oh, it's so, I mean, that's just amazing. And I just love your energy. And, I saw you on Insta doing all your yogi stuff and the energy and the vibrancy that came from you just really wanted me to reach out to you and to kind of show people, family and friends living with HIV or people that know someone living with HIV that actually, it's okay, life can be actually fantastic. So, on that note, Johanna, what happened with your story? Like when you found out?
It's been so long. So I feel like my story kind of sounds a little like unbelievable, but this is really how it kind of played out.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed pretty young. At the time, I was a college student with a 2-year-old son, didn't have a job, was honestly very happily exploring my sexuality. I was in an open relationship. We were sleeping with bisexual men and women. So we were kind of exploring a
Yeah.
lot together, me and my partner. Unfortunately, we did contract HIV. I believe that he had it before I did, and then
Hmm.
passed it on to me. Um, but I feel like those little details aren't so important as much as my, I don't want to call it my healing story because we're all
Yeah.
whole all the time. But my healing story was kind of, um, it began when I started sharing my story. I found that when I was sharing my story with women and people who were going through the same
Yeah.
situation that I was going through, and not just HIV, but HPV or hepatitis or whatever virus that they were dealing with, if I could console them in any way by sharing my story and showing them like you can be okay and you can
Mm.
be happy and you won't give it to your children or your partner or whoever you share a drink with or what have you, um, life is still beautiful and possible. And that's where I found my healing, was sharing those tidbits with people, sharing my life.
So this is a bit that I'm really quite interested in, and I'll tell you why I'm quite interested in it. But I'll ask you the question first. When you found out, describe how that was for me when you actually found out that you were HIV positive.
Yeah, so it was, of course, painful. Um,
Hmm.
I was devastated. I was so young. I was freshly exploring my sexuality and who I was
Yeah.
as an adult.
Yeah.
I just turned 21, I think, or 22. Um, I remember going into the office, the doctor's office, with my partner at the time, and the woman, she wasn't a HIV specialist. She wasn't an infectious disease doctor. She was just a
Oh.
regular family practice doctor.
Mm.
And I remember her going through the list of my blood work, and it was almost as if she was like avoiding the big one after she had already told my partner at the time that he already had it. So we're both sitting there like waiting, and she goes, "Blood work's okay. You don't have HSV. You don't." And then my partner goes, "Just fucking tell her." Sorry, I don't know if I can curse or
Yeah.
not.
No, yeah,
Like,
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
he goes, "Just tell her what we're here for." And she goes,
Yeah.
"Unfortunately, you are HIV positive."
Yeah.
And at that moment, I just remember like hunching down, looking at the ground, and tears started rolling down my face. I wasn't hysterical. I just started, crying a
Yeah.
little, and she said something along the lines of, "Make sure you don't cry in front of your child because your tears have HIV in them." And I was
Oh
like, "Well,
my
what the fuck?
goodness.
How am I going to feed
Wow.
my child? How am I going to take care of myself? Like I'm going to be crying through this
Yeah.
whole process, you know?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So just so many mixed emotions. I was devastated. I was upset. I was a little resentful towards my partner. I was feeling guilty that I was this toxic hazard to the people that I loved
Yeah.
around me. Um, that initial shock, I think, also sent me into a depression that I didn't even realize I was going through, um,
Yeah.
because my identity as a person completely changed slowly after that moment. I was a
Yeah.
very sexually liberated person, and I am now. But
Yeah. Yeah.
in that space in between then and now, I was completely shut down and was cut off from this part of me that was so important to me. You know, my
Yeah.
sexuality, my sensuality.
Yeah. I can relate. So I just have to say I so relate to that because I was a very sensual and sexual person. You know, I enjoyed sex. I enjoyed that kind of connection. And for that, I felt that HIV took that away from me. That was how I
Exactly.
felt at the time. And I was fucking pissed, you know, until I just shut up shop. You know, I was just, you know, I just kind of went into a depression that I didn't know that I had. Yeah. So the reason that I asked you that question, I wanted to know because like I'm older than you, and I remember, well, in the UK, so it'll be interesting to know from your perspective, but in the UK, the first time that I heard and understood what HIV was these adverts on television in the UK. And they had these adverts of tombstones, you know, like tombstones, like when you
Of
die,
course.
gravestones. When someone dies, they put these stones up to say that they've died on their grave. Anyway, the advert was these people dying, and the
Mm,
advert was if you're a man and you know if you have sex, unprotected sex, you're gonna die. And I actually remember thinking, wow, thank God that's not going to be me ever. It's just gay men and people that live in
exactly.
different and people that live in different countries, not me, you know. So I was, you know, I had that link between the you know, the death and gay men. What was your knowledge of HIV before you found out? What was your understanding of it?
So at the time, like I said, we were in a open relationship and we're having sex with
Yeah.
bisexual individuals and gay individuals as well. So I had a bit of an understanding already. We had friends that were
Oh,
already living fabulous lives, really happy while they were taking HIV medication, while they were positive. And we also knew a
yeah.
lot of, I believe it's called serocoordinate couples, where it's one positive, one negative couple. So I knew
Yeah.
that life was going to be okay. But I did think that I wasn't going to be able to have children, that I wasn't going to be able to you have unprotected sex, and that I wasn't going to ever date somebody who was HIV negative. I thought I was going to be with an HIV positive
Yeah.
person for the rest of my
Yeah,
life.
me too.
And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just so crazy that this super antiquated data is still circling out there. People still believe this.
I
And again, like you said,
know.
because we're women, we think, oh,
Yeah.
we don't have to educate ourselves on this because we're
Yeah.
not we're
Just
women, you know?
pregnancy. That's all we've got to protect ourselves against, pregnancy.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Can I pause just for 1 second?
Yes. Yes, of
I'm
course.
sorry. My son, I guess.
So, did you tell anybody when you first found out?
Um, it's kind of funny because I make fun of myself now because I feel like I told everybody. I was so gung ho about I need to share my story. I need people to know that I can't give it to you. So I
Yeah.
told everybody. I remember I told my best friend first, of course. And then I had my mom and my sisters who are very conservative Costa Rican Latina women. I had them all come
Mm,
over, and I didn't want to scare them. So I did this cute little thing where I was like, we're all gonna wear pink and we're gonna come over, have like a tea party, we're gonna have like a girls' day. Because I wanted to show them like I'm okay. See, like I'm
yeah.
able to do this. And I told them, and surprisingly, they were really supportive. I think having the knowledge of the science and trusting the science made them
Yeah.
feel better. When I was confident in
Yeah.
delivering my message, they felt comforted too.
Yeah.
And then I remember going to speech class. I was in college at the time, and I was in speech class, and I was like, screw it, I'm gonna make a speech about like my HIV. And it was the
Yeah.
awkwardest thing I've ever done. At the time,
Yeah.
I was I was already a shy person to begin with. So it was pretty awkward. It got mixed reviews, 50-50. Some of the students were really supportive. Other students were like, you should keep that private. You shouldn't talk about that. That's something that you keep to yourself. And I'm so glad I did that, because now I'm like, no, screw that. You guys, of all people, college students need to know this.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what? You're just amazing. And I think I can't, oh yeah, I want to ask you about stigma. Have you experienced stigma?
I feel like I don't know why, but I haven't experienced much of it, to be honest with you. And I don't know if it's because I'm so open and so confident. I don't know if it's because of another reasons, but I do feel like most of the interactions I've had when it comes to my HIV have been pretty positive. I think I had one guy, I know I had one guy when I was on Tinder, and I put my status on Tinder, who said something along the lines of like, oh, that's gross. I only sleep with women that are clean, or something.
Well, I knew you were going to say that. Like, I when I asked you that question, have you experienced stigma? You're like, oh. I thought to myself, I knew she was going to say this, because I feel that the stigma that I experienced was self-stigma, the beginning.
Mm,
Yeah. It was all self-stigma. It
yeah.
wasn't stigma from anybody else. And I had to tell my 3 children, and I had to tell people, and I've not had any negativity, maybe stuff behind my back, but then who cares? People talk. But I haven't had any real horror stories. And I don't know about you, but HIV has empowered me to be free. And you're a really open kind of, really open kind of person, a really free person. What has HIV done for you?
Lou, I would say that I agree with you. I think, as crazy as it sounds, HIV has also empowered me. It has given me this voice that I never had before. I was a shy, quiet, insecure child, and then I got
Yeah.
HIV, and I had this big, powerful story that I just like had to get out, and it
Yeah.
made me who I am today. It led me to the path of spirituality and to breath work and the teachings that I
Yeah.
do, and
Yeah.
it blessed me in so many ways, which I know
Oh,
sounds
no,
crazy,
it
but it
doesn't,
really
because
has.
that's what I want to talk to you about, actually. Like, listening to you, I feel like we're mirroring, exactly what you're saying. So tell me about, like, your wellness journey. How did that kind of come about? Was it post HIV diagnosis?
I think, like most people, we all have a lot of childhood trauma that we haven't worked through. And I
We all
think that
do.
yeah. And I think prior to HIV, it was there, but I was
Yeah.
so good at not feeling. I was so good at
Yeah.
suppressing with drugs, alcohol, sex, a lot of sex,
Me
um,
too. Yeah.
and TV, all the things, food, all of it. I was just overstimulated all the time so that I didn't have to
Yeah.
feel those wounds. But then when I got diagnosed, that wound was so big and I had to
Yeah.
confront it, that all the stuff bubbled up at once.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and while I did find healing through sharing my story, I think I was, like I said earlier, kind of like how you said too, like I was going through a depression and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
one day, I want to say 2 years after my diagnosis, something just changed in me. I started developing extreme hypochondriac syndrome. I couldn't drive on highways. I couldn't be alone. I was extremely anxious and extremely depressed.
Mm.
Um, and I remember trying everything under the sun, medication, I shouldn't say everything, every Western approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then a girlfriend of mine was like, "Hey, you should look into this guy, Joe Dispenza." And I was like, "I don't know.
Heard it. Yeah.
I don't know how to meditate. I don't do that." And that kind of started my journey on healing and spirituality, and realizing that, oh, this wound that I had with HIV, although I tell myself I'm okay with it because I talk about it publicly, is actually
Yeah.
really, really, really big. And all those other things that I went through in my life prior to that are also really big. And I just suppressed them all.
Mm.
And um, I forgot the original question, but yeah, I would
No, no,
say,
no. I'm listening to you intently. I love your story. So, I was going to ask you about detachment. Like, I relate to everything that you're saying, particularly about the suppression, particularly about this, what I call sex, drugs, and rock and roll, shopping, just lots of stuff to kind of blot out what was really kind of going on there. And so, yeah, so h- how how does yoga, first of all, I want to say that the journey's ongoing. It never stops, does it? It's not like you've got this destination, then you're healed and you're enlightened, and that's the end of it. It goes on and on and on. It's a lifelong practice. So I'm interested in your yoga practice. So what yoga are you doing and what worked for you and why?
truthfully, I'm not doing
Mm.
that much yoga.
Oh,
I typically default to hatha yoga, but it has not
uh-huh.
been a pivotal piece in my story particularly. If anything, I would say I use hatha yoga to accentuate my breathwork practice, because that's where I
Oh, your
have
breath
had the
work.
most.
Ah,
Yeah, so I would say that it really, like I said, accentuates my practice and helps my breathwork practice to be even stronger if I do hatha a few minutes before I do
yeah,
breathwork, or meditation. Typically, what I do is I'll do a little bit of hatha, breath work, and then meditation in that order.
yeah. Breath work, hatha, and then meditation. Mm. Oh, that
Yeah.
sounds lovely. Yum, yum. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know about you, but like when I first found out, I didn't see many women out there with HIV. I had to really hunt it down. And I mean, I found out in the mid 2000s. So that was a really long time ago. And I didn't see anyone that looked like me. All I saw was like basically white men or people from Africa, different countries. I didn't see any women, heterosexual women that looked like me. I just didn't. And that's why I'm doing this. And this is why I've got these podcasts, because I want to bring people from all walks of life, from different nationalities and different genders and just different people to say, yeah, me too. you know, I've got HIV and I'm living well. So I want to ask you, um, if somebody's watching this now and they have either just found out they've got HIV or they know somebody living with HIV, what would you say to them?
I would say so much, and I wish I could hug them, because I feel like a hug is what we all really need. Um, but number one, on the more 3D realm, I would say knowledge is power. So educate yourself as much as you can, because with that
Yeah.
education and that knowledge, you'll have so much more confidence. And then second, on a
Mm.
more spiritual, love based response, I would say you're beautiful and you're whole. And it's just a human condition that's a part of the human experience. Um, and I know that sounds very mojo, like we're woo woo, but that's just the truth of it. It's like we're all love, and
Yeah.
you are love, and you're beautiful, and you're amazing, and you really are whole. And I know it may be hard to embody that right now, but know that, and then like smile, laugh, like continue to live your life in beauty, because oh, this is all to me so beautiful and so fascinating. All of it, every single little piece, the ugly, the good, the yin and the yang. It's all awesome.
You're amazing. I think I've got a low-key girl crush on you. I think you're absolutely beautiful. And I bow to the divine in you, darling. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Thank you so much. Stay on the line and I'm just going to end the recording, but thank you.